And the writing was Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. This title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Jesus was crucified was nigh to the city. It was near the city. And it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Now it's interesting because those are languages that were all spoken at that time. Now the Jews spoke the Hebrew, and but then you had Greek speakers and you had those that spoke Latin. So those were like the top languages at that time. Now there also was Aramaic as well. But it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Then said the chief priest of the Jews to Pilate, write not the King of the Jews, but that he said, I am the King of the Jews. And another thing, when they said we have no king but Caesar, it was noticed that it was the high priest that said it. It was the high priest that said we have no king but Caesar. And the high priest is the one that was in between God and the people, would present the offerings to God, would go into the tabernacle. Okay, the high priest was the one that did that. So when he declared that, he declared a curse on himself, on them when he said that, because he's speaking directly to God. He spoke for the group as the high priest to God. And now you saying that you have no king but Caesar. Okay, you're granted that. You're given that. But let's keep going. And Pilate answered, what I have written, I have written. I'm not changing it. I put the King of the Jews up there. You wanted me to crucify him, but you're not going to get me to change what I put up there. What Pilate's saying. Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. They said, therefore among themselves, let us not rend it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which saith, they parted my raiment among them, and for my vesture they did cast lots. These things therefore the soldiers did. See, all this was in the Old Testament. All this was in Scripture. See, the New Testament wasn't written at this time. It was only Old Testament. So all this stuff is in the Old Testament. And they didn't even know it. You know, not the Romans, but the Jews. Yeah, but some of them knew it, but they didn't care. They wanted them dead. They had chosen who their God was. And it was the prince of the world. But these things, therefore, the soldiers did. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciples standing by, whom he loved, he saith unto his mother, woman, behold thy son. Now, I said earlier about people talking about Mary Magdalene was the beloved disciple. And before I got to that point right there, it might sound like, oh, wait a minute, you didn't mention John standing there. But notice he said, he saw the disciple standing by, whom he loved. He saith unto his mother, woman, behold thy son. Mary Magdalene cannot be a son. But I think that is made pretty clear there, that Dan Brown and all these other people coming up with these crazy theories, it's just that, it's a theory, it's not a fact. Then saith he to the disciple, behold thy mother. And from that hour, that disciple took her unto his own. After this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, saith, I thirst. Now there was a set. See, all this time, Jesus still got his mind. Ain't that something? Jesus still had his mind on the mission, the commandments God had given him to do. So his mind is still on the mission, even to the last second. Now, and he said, knowing all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, saith, I thirst. Now there was a set of vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and put upon hyssop, and put to his mouth. When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. He gave up the spirit, the pneuma. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the bodies should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was a high day, okay, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken, and they might be taken away. Then came the soldiers and brake the legs of the first and of the other, which was crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was dead already, they brake not his legs. But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. And he saw. So as you see, they said Jesus was dead. When he gave up the ghost, I've heard people say, well, it says he gave up the ghost, so he might not have died. Okay. When they saw that he was dead already, they brake not his legs. So they saw that he was dead already. These are people who done many crucifixions. I think they knew when somebody was dead. But anyway, scripture said he was dead. He was dead. Put those lies to rest. The devil is a liar. But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. So now they knew he was dead. They stuck him just to make sure. Stuck him in the side instead of breaking his leg. Make sure. So they stuck him in the side. And he that saw bare record, and his record is true. And he knoweth that he saith truth. That he saith true, that ye might believe. He knows it. So this is true. He who saw this is who bears record, who is writing this, and who is it? Is John, the beloved disciple. For these things were done that the scripture should be fulfilled. A bone of him shall not be broken. Another fulfillment. And again another scripture saith, they shall look on him whom they pierced. Another scripture fulfilled. And after this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus. See, there were many other disciples other than the 12 or the 11. Okay, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews. So he was afraid of the Jews, but he secretly, him and Nicodemus, both were secret disciples of Jesus, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus. And Pilate gave him leave. He came therefore and took the body of Jesus. And there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes. See, Nicodemus was a Pharisee, a teacher of the scriptures. So he knew because he knew that what the scriptures said. Okay, and he was interested in the Messiah, which was Jesus, that was prophesied about by Moses, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds. Then took they the body of Jesus, and wound it in linen clothes with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulchre, wherein was never man yet laid. So this was a place where no man had been buried before. Okay. There laid they Jesus, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation, for the sepulchre was nigh at hand. Okay. Got chapter 20 now that we're going to go into. The first of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early. Now, it's interesting. Jesus rose from the dead on the first day, which is Sunday. So if the first day of the week is Sunday, then therefore the seventh day is Saturday, which it is on our calendars. Okay, it's just very interesting there that it says that right there. The first of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. So she's there at 6 p.m. Saturday, because that's when the new day started. And it would have been dark because the sun was going down. Okay, so dark unto the sepulchre, and see if the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Then she runneth and cometh to Simon Peter and to the other disciple. See, that's John. And he keeps referring to himself as that other disciple whom Jesus loved. That tells you that was John. And saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him. Peter therefore went forth and that other disciple, and came to the sepulchre. So they ran both together, and the other disciple did outrun Peter. John outran Peter, and came first to the sepulchre. And he, stooping down, saw the linen clothes lying, yet went he not in. So John didn't go in. Then cometh Simon Peter following him, and went into the sepulchre, and see if the linen clothes lie, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Then went in also that other disciple, which was John, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. Okay, so I think we got the Mary Magdalene thing knocked down, because he says it again, and he saw. Okay, and that's not in italics. For as yet they knew not the scripture that he must rise again from the dead. Then the disciples went away again unto their own home. But Mary stood without at the sepulchre weeping, and as she wept, she stooped down into the sepulchre, and seeth two angels in white sitting, the one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. And they say unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? She saith unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid him. And when she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Jesus standing, and knew not that it was Jesus. So therefore, he was in a different body that wasn't the physical body that had just been battered and put on the cross. He was in a different body. Because she didn't know who it was. She didn't recognize him. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away.